Healthmatic really began probably in 1880 when William Dibben and Sons opened a builders merchants in Eastleigh, and they sold just about everything from rope to knives to axes, and amongst obviously the products were toilets, ceramic toilets. The business sort of continued to grow, and it became a general builders merchants. It began to make deliveries, and it began to focus on sort of plumbing products. It changed its name, it morphed, it twisted, it turned. But by the time I was born, my father was still a builders merchant, and he then went off in the kitchen direction. And when he died in 1999, the business was in a bit of a sort of poor state. So I picked up the plumbing side, and we've really kicked off on the public toilets. There was already a nascent public toilet business that had been growing, mainly based around automatic toilets. And we built a business around that. We started to think about the amount of water that automatic toilets were using and the amount of energy that they were using. That every user that goes in, the toilet bowl gets it clean, the floor gets it clean, and the walls get it clean. Now that's obviously quite energy intensive, and it's also quite water intensive. So we started to look at ways we could reduce that amount of water that was being used. And we moved on to the concept of the semi-automatic toilet, whereby you manage the access, you manage the door, you manage the flush system, but you didn't automatically clean the toilet and the floor and the bowl every time a user used it. And then between probably 2003 and 2010, that was the predominant sort of growth of the business, the semi-automatic toilet business. Councils were beginning to look at routes to reducing their spending on non-statutory services like toilets. And one way they could reduce their spending is by increasing their revenue. So we developed a whole range of access equipment. The main products that we developed initially were a paddle gate. So that was modelled, in fact, on the underground access systems that you use. So it was something that we felt everyone understood. However, each paddle gate is moderately expensive, and so in areas where you had lower footfall, it made much more sense to have a door-based system. So we developed a door-based coin access system that worked in tandem with the lock of the door. And by now, we think that at least 90% of usage of our toilets is through contactless access. So combining the access equipment with the development of semi-automatic systems combined with the manufacture of toilets, we've been looking at ways that we can really make an impact with councils without it costing the councils a fortune. We are developing a product whereby we can install those toilets for relatively low cost to the council and potentially free by adding ancillary services to those toilets. At Healthmatic, we've always been the leaders in the toilet business. We were the first into the access systems. We've been the first into the overall management of toilets, and we are now leading the market in terms of providing toilets that are at a price point that councils can both afford and absolutely encourage.